Okay, so welcome. We just started the recording. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them anytime. This is a good opportunity to go in whatever questions you may have, whether they regard your contemplation, your life, anything that's happening for you. So if there are any questions,
Yes,
you can pose them. Yes, hello Marvo.
Hi.
Yes.
What do I do with resistance? I mean, I know that the teaching says that we don't have to resist whatever is there, but to be honest, there is a lot of resistance in me to the sensations in my body and other things. So what do I do about it?
Mm-hmm. Well, to resist the resistance just makes more resistance. Yes, Maru?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense not to add fire to the fuel. Yeah. So when there is resistance, there can also be a space of awareness, a space of recognition, a certain openness to the resistance. And not an argumentation, not arguing with the resistance, not struggling with it, not fighting it. So the resistance arises as both a thought, I don't want this, and also feeling in the body. It's more closed, it's more tight. It's like the cells they just got together to form a barrier, to make a stand. But although there is a resistance going on, Maru, there is also, just trying to see if anybody needs to be muted here. Okay, Marjorie. Okay. You can also be still with the resistance. Why not? You can explore that. Because when you are trying to get rid of something, that's a resistance in itself. When you want things to change, in a way, we may be open for change. We may be open for a sweeter, a more harmonious way of relating. May be open to a more peaceful way of being with the world. But there is a sweetness to that. There is a sweetness to being open to the possibility of, an easier way, a gentler way. It's different from struggling against something, you see? So it's important that you notice when you are struggling, when you're fighting with something that's happening, or when you are open for some sweeter, you're open to change. You're open to an easier way, a body that's more transparent, a relationship that's more trustful and loving. So you're open to that. So when there is a resistance, we're open to change. We're open to the ease of resistance. And our openness, in a way, Maru, is an invitation for the habit to argue and fight. It's an invitation for that habit to come to our openness, to relax in our openness. And also in resistance, there is always a separation. You are separating yourself. There is something you are trying to protect, you say. What is it you're trying to protect? It's an important question. I am not saying that there is nothing that is worth protecting. I'm just saying that there's a question here. What is it that I'm trying to protect? Of course, we do our best with every situation to be in a happy relationship, in a happy place, in a happy situation. But we know that when we are struggling in order to come to peace and happiness, that's not the way. Mm-hmm. It's a contradiction. But there is a way to happiness. Which doesn't involve struggling. It's more a recognition of presence, a recognition of presence. The recognition of presence that is free. It's free and open. It's a recognition of an inherent peace that's already God-given. It's not something that we need to fabricate or something that we hold on to. It is an openness, a peace, an ease of being that we can recognize. We can recognize it. We say, yes, there is some conflict, but there's also peace. There is a space that is not impacted by the world, body, mind. And that space that is not impacted by the world, body, mind is not something, because everything can be impacted by something else. It's not a thing, it's not a form, because the forms can be impacted by the weather, by sickness, by other forms. And we know in this very moment, for example, Maru, that there is this aware presence is very real. Mm-hmm. And it's not a form, it's not a thing. So it could be that peace that we're speaking about, that's the inherent peace of presence, it could be that it is that the consciousness that right now hears these words. Because the consciousness that hears these words right now doesn't have a form. It's not an object. Yet it's very real. Consciousness is very real.
Mm-hmm.
And has no boundaries. You can't say it starts here or it ends there. So there is a non-phenomenal realm that is not impacted by the world body-mind event, that knows no resistance, that is not in the resistance business, that doesn't even understand. When you say resistance, doesn't even understand it. Resist what? Let's see. Resistance is always trying to protect some imaginary me, which is constantly knocking on the door. Protect me, protect me, protect me, give me, give me, give me. I want to run away, or I want to run after something. I want to run away from something, or I want to run after something. That dynamic is what we call resistance. It has at its center an imaginary form that is taken to have a separate reality from the reality of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we know right now, Maru, that what is real right now in this very moment is consciousness. And whenever we take the reality of consciousness and attribute the reality of consciousness to be a person, to be a man, to be a woman, then there is all sorts of worry about this man and this woman, because they are forms, and all forms are subject to conditions. So I would leave the impermanent be what it is, Maru, dance its dance, and I will recognize myself as the permanent and the eternal self, meaning the permanent and eternal presence, consciousness.
In which resistance appears.
I'm sorry? Yeah?
In which resistance appears.
Yes, rest. In which resistance appears and dissolves.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you recognize yourself as the wide open sky of presence, the wide open sky doesn't perceive the clouds as a resistance. It remains, if you have 10 clouds, 1,000 clouds, or no clouds, the sky remains this infinite space. It remains the infinite space. So recognize the infinite space of presence, of consciousness. Keep going back to that. And leave the resistance, let the resistance be, and invite it to recognize its master. Invite this impression of being a woman to recognize the consciousness in which this impression of womanhood appears. Because peace doesn't come from the mind. It comes to the mind from consciousness. The light shines from the sun onto the moon. So there is at the body level, like we did in retreat when we were together in Costa Rica, there is also releasing the bodily sensation to the space that's just available all around. Releasing the sensation to the space. In all directions, allow whatever sensation arises that seems to be a resistance. You don't even need to call it a resistance. Just go just to the sensation, to the pure sensation, and recognize the borderless presence around it. Allow it to flow and float in the borderless presence of consciousness, of awareness. You are that aware presence. You are that untouched and untouchable. You are the creator of all creation, the dreamer of all dreams, untouched by the dreams that you dream. Don't worry about the impression of womanhood or the impression of limitation or the impressions in their bodily sensations that are being dreamt. Their consciousnesses dream, like when at night you have all sorts of night dreams. Similarly, in the waking state, there are all these waking dreams. But you are not any person in the dream. You are not any form, and yet you dream all forms. So when you try to fix the resistance from me the person, you maintain me the person with a problem, and with a problem that I need to find a solution to it. And that in itself is very miserable. Recognize the problem-free presence that you are. Keep going back to that.
Okay. Thank you. Magdi, I don't know if this happens only to me, but I don't see you anymore.
Oh.
Like in the... I don't know if I'm seeing you.
I don't know, is anybody else has lost my video? No, I think Tara says she sees me fine. I don't know.
So it's a problem in my computer.
Yeah,
Okay.
it could be.
Okay.
Well, I see you fine. It's nice to see you, Mahu.
Okay, good. I only see you in the, like the small...
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know, these meetings are also recorded on YouTube. Hello, Ananda. Ananda, you're right. I've had several interviews with a hospice organization that I'd like to work for in my RN capacity. They seem to be a more conservative group than I am used to, and I find myself presenting myself as more conservative than I actually am. I am wondering how far to go with that charade, that concession. The charade the charade, Ananda, is with yourself. It is
Uh-oh.
not with that conservative group. You are charading yourself. So when you stop charading yourself, you will stop charading the conservative group.
Maybe
Anyway,
you can say a little, explain
yes,
that a little more.
yes. Uh,
It intuitively sounds true, but let me
yeah,
hear
yeah,
a little more explanation.
yeah. Well, I'm remembering the story of this Zen master who uh, had this Zen center up in the hills outside of a village, and his entire group of students were like very holy and peaceful, and all is well, and they're doing their meditation great, you know, showing up on time, doing all their prostrations, their chanting, and all of that. So he goes down to the village. You probably know the story. He goes down to the village and find the naughtiest fellow in the village, and pays that fellow to come to the Zen center to create all sorts of mess. You know, what is this chanting? Oh, what are you guys doing? Eating in bowls, you know, and wrapping your balls in these napkins. Come on, you know, what is all this quiet? You're sitting here. Let's sing a song. And so he kept paying him to come to the center to create, to stir the pot, Why? Because he suspected there was this image of holiness, this we have achieved, we are the special Zen senior disciples of this great master, blah blah. So he came to stir their pot. So somehow that came to mind. Images about ourselves are what the self is, what the sense, what this me is, what this personhood, this impression of personhood is made up of images and thoughts and memories and ideas about myself and about others, you see, and about others. And this sense of separation and this separate consciousness impression arises from such simple identities, simple, subtle identities, including the identity of being conservative, non-conservative, to be more open. And the openness is not at the personal level. It is at the consciousness level. It is consciousness that is impersonal, that has no border, that is undefined, that is universal, that is infinite, that is eternal. It's consciousness, you see. The same consciousness that inhabits a conservative body or a liberal, you know, body, that is one consciousness. So in your contemplation of being with these conservative, so-called conservative people, you do not abide as less conservative or less liberal entity. You abide as consciousness.
And so that the thing plays out in its harmonious way, plays out without a...
Consciousness is complete harmony, you see. Consciousness is peace, it's beauty, it's love, it's freedom. It's already complete fulfillment, you see. Complete fulfillment. It celebrates in the dream all celebrations, all dreams. It celebrates. It's not seeking, doesn't have a personal concern. It is open for joy, freedom, happiness for all. It is open for celebration, the veneration, if you want to use the term, of the majesty of consciousness, not the veneration, the honoring the majesty of consciousness and all the beautiful qualities of consciousness for all. You see? So I would be watchful of these subtle images that arise about myself and others. This does not mean I will argue with every conservative point they make, and nor does it mean I will agree and I will adopt whatever conservative. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. It will be at that very specific moment that there is an unfolding, that there is an interaction, that you know, as you are expressing yourself, as you are maybe not expressing yourself, as you are listening, or maybe as you are sharing, as you are inviting the other to contemplate a different approach, or as you are just simply listening without any invitation, without inviting anybody to share or to be with you in looking at things from a different angle. When you don't notice there is an openness, you see. So you can sense when there is a space for you to share, and when there isn't, and you can sense when sometimes you say, okay, fine, yeah, you go along with some conservative point of view because it's really not so important. It's not like you're changing your life, and when you would say, no, I'm sorry, that's not something I do. If that's something that you guys do, your freedom, but that's not something that I do. You don't know ahead of time, you see.
No, you know what I did?
You don't need to know ahead of time, you see.
I think because this field attracts really interesting people that I get along with really well and get to be myself. There's a joke. It says something like, "Society tells you to be yourself, but oh, not like that."
Right. Be yourself, but be like me.
Be yourself, but So
be yourself, but don't break the rules of our organization. Yes.
So I had this whole round table of people interviewing me, and I said, and I've never been in a situation like that with several people. And anyway, I said, "Oh, I love this work. I love to, I love to just be myself. I totally." It all just happens spontaneously. I don't even have to think about what I'm doing, stuff like that, which is true. I can say it to you, but they're thinking, is this guy like a loose cannon, something like that?
But sometimes, first, I'm not sure what it means to be yourself. I don't know what it means to be myself. I really don't know. I mean, I'm familiar with the term, to be myself, but I really don't know what it means. And I don't know what it means to be a loose cannon, because sometimes you can just be spontaneous, but some other times you may be very thoughtful.
Yes.
So what does that mean? You loose cannon or not loose cannon? These are it varies, it varies. You can't really I mean, sometimes there is no need to think. You just feel an intuition, you feel a certain spontaneity in a certain situation, and you express something. But if you are doing that across the board, then you have some sort of image about yourself that you somehow that you say, well, that's how I am, and that's how the way to be, you see. But when you don't know the way to be, then you are just in your not knowing, and in that moment, in that specific situation, then there is a way of being. And of course, the highest way of being is to be as consciousness, meaning to be looking at our globality, to be looking not just at myself, but taking the entire, to take the others in consideration as well as yourself. But when there is you have a behavior that is repeating itself, it's very narrow. It's the sun shines equally onto the lake, onto the ocean, onto the small pond, onto the forest, onto the small pine tree, or on the tall sequoia tree. It shines equally across so many different manifestations.
Mm-hmm.
So the manifestations can vary. But the sun is the light of consciousness, that you cannot define it, you see. So when you define yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you say, I know myself, or being myself, I'm not sure what you are defining.
Mm-hmm.
When you know yourself, you know peace.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
the peace of consciousness that permeates not just your body, not just your being, but the entire space. That
Mm-hmm.
permeates everything, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. In fact, one sort of conservative thing to do is make those definitions and then be on guard with people.
Yeah.
That's conservative in itself.
Yeah, it's limiting. It's limiting. Yeah. And, you know, we sometimes become attracted. There's like a certain fad about a certain image, a certain way of being.
Yeah.
Especially when we are younger, maybe
Yeah, like
we need some acceptance or so.
Yeah.
But then our freedom, you know, as our freedom grows,
Mm-hmm.
we found ourselves free from any particular way of being, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Undefined, you know, we're undefined.
Mm-hmm.
And so we may pick up the flute and play to a group of people like that spontaneously, or we may not.
Right.
We don't know.
I brought my flute to the interview and put it and said, "This is like show and tell. This is who I am." And they looked like, well, this is a serious interview. What do you do? Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
Good point. I'm not going to bring it the next time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I was one of the interviewers, I wouldn't have minded the flute, but I don't mind if my carpenter plays the flute and he's a good carpenter. I love that. They can, during the break, they can play the flute. That would be very lovely. But yes, you know, you can sense there is a certain, of course, etiquette that people are used to, and until you have some indication from the interviewers in this case that there is an openness, or if you heard about them before, or you've interviewed them before by going online and if you know their names and know who they are.
Oh, right.
That, you know. But if you walk in
they're from a Catholic organization. I've never worked with a religious, and
that says a lot already.
We know how they can be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you remember when we were in Costa Rica with these nuns, you know. I mean, there are all sorts of nuns, but in this particular case.
Yeah, they were kind of conservative, I would say.
There is somebody just recently that posted something about Jesus is the Lord and everybody else, they're sages, yes, but there is one Lord, that's Jesus Christ. Okay, you know, that's where people need to be right now. So, yeah, you sometimes you have to know who you are dealing with, and compromise with things that you feel okay, willing to compromise. The others that are not compromisable, well, they're not compromisable.
Right. But the basic point you made totally resonates. It's like, and that's going everywhere, doing everything. Like you said, it's not being 17 years old and needing to make my statement of who I am. You know.
No, it's best to contemplate what am I truly, rather than be marketing to myself or to others any image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. And I'll just, they're having me back again, so I'll just enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely.
Enjoy it and give them the space to be themselves. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
You can just be there in presence and interact, out of presence, out of peace, out of the peace of beingness.
Mm. And if it's still not a match, then I just, it's just another experience.
All is consciousness. All is the self.
Mm.
It's all perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. This just shows me there's a tendency, I've always had this tendency to line up like the positive points and the negative points and, and make it, we'll look for evidence that things are good, that things are going well, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a certain limited way, sometimes it is helpful to look at things that way when you are weighing a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
But as you are doing that, at the core of that, there is well-being. So we are looking at a certain situation, a certain decisions, the pros and the cons, and the mind does that in its contemplation of a certain decision or of a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gathering data, you're weighing, but you don't compromise. In this weighing, you don't compromise your freedom and your happiness, meaning whatever decision you make after you've weighed the pros and the cons, you arrive to a decision. Of course, you cannot arrive to a decision until you get there. You can't get ahead of you get the decision when you get to the decision after you've weighed whatever is needed. But once you get to the decision, you've done your contemplation of the pros and the cons and gathered all the data, and the decision is there, it's clear, okay, I need to go in that direction. Then you go with complete confidence. You don't backtrack yourself. You just you go and you maintain your freedom. Whether you were hoping to attain that promotion and the promotion goes to somebody else, that's fine. Or you get a bigger promotion than you expected, that's fine. It's equally fine. So because what you are is already complete freedom. Complete freedom. Which means you are not a subject, you're not a something. You are consciousness, the freedom of consciousness that is dreaming this dream out of its freedom and sense of play. You see, there isn't like a sense of danger or angst or an urgency. The sense of urgency, sense of urgency, and the sense of like impending doom or danger. That is a party pooper. That's a spoiler of the spoiler of the in the space. It's a virus. Yes.
Right. Right. Thank you for bringing in that spacious reality, as usual, which puts it all in a good perspective. Thanks, that was great.
Yes, Ananda. Nice to see you, Ananda.
Thank you.
There was a question that was sent to me, Kathleen. Hello, Kathleen. My mind has quieted a lot this week, and I'm grateful to you and to the universe for that. I'm still having some difficulty at work, and I'm not sure if it's ego-related or not. I teach children with autism, and I feel a lot of stress when I'm sitting close to someone who is likely to physically attack me, or when there is a difficult or potentially unsafe transition approaching. I want to have peace at all time, not just when things are calm and easy. How do I approach these stressful situations? Well, Kathleen, it makes perfect sense to have some caution, to take some caution, to be cautious in situations where you, meaning the body-mind, may be in danger, may be attacked, possibly potential of being attacked by something or somebody. And that is not a sign of ignorance. That is not a sign of confusion. There can be both peace and caution. When the antelope is grazing in the plain, their ears are constantly turning to every possible sound. They can sense the vibrations, and their ears and their entire body is sort of, when they sense a certain sound that is just coming into the space, it's possible that there is a predator that is coming to prey on them, and so they're cautious, and the body sometimes just trembles, ready to jump and starts running. That is part of the body-mind organism, the body-mind functioning. I would not be looking at that as ignorance, meaning not peace. There's peace and ignorance. Now, on the other hand, if it is disturbing to you to be working in an environment where there is the potential of being physically attacked, you know, in this case, from the way you're saying in your note, then I would consider maybe working in a different part of the center. Maybe, I mean, in the most severe case, I would be looking for a different work environment, different job, different. Maybe in the same field you can work with different types of patients, or maybe in the same job you can be doing some other functions. So how do I approach this stressful situation? Well, of course, everybody responds to love. Yes, everybody can sense your deep intention, your loving openness. There may be some extreme exceptions to that, but overall, when you are trusting and open and loving, it's sensed, autism or no autism. I remember years ago when I was in my 20s, I worked in a halfway house. It was a halfway house for mental patients or patients with addiction problems, and other schizophrenia, and it was a halfway house. And somehow, although I did not have this sort of training, I find myself having the job of being a night manager there, meaning I worked there from don't recall, maybe 6 p.m. until the morning. And I had a room in the halfway house, and I actually had moved into that room. I lived there, meaning I was there during my night shift, and I was there during the day. I lived there. It was just one room. I had a small mat, and I was young, living a little bit the hippie life. But I grew very quickly to really, I grew fond and I grew to love the people who were there. They were inpatients, and sometimes there would be new patients, and they would stay for a few months, sometimes even longer than that. I think I worked there for about 2 years. But I grew to really enjoy these people, and because I lived there, I would, when I was not working there, and because I wasn't working every night, I would still be there often. In the evening, I would go to the refrigerator and to eat something, and they would be around. There were maybe 8 to 10 people or 12 people, and so sometimes I was cooking something. I would cook something for a couple of people to eat with me. We would eat and talk, and so a certain friendship grew between us. But above all, my relationship was a loving relationship with them. I am sharing that with you because there was a day staff also. The day staff used to come in, and the relationship was a little bit different. They just came in, they worked for their 8 hours or whatever it was, and they went home. And they approached the people who lived there as patients, which, you know, it's correct approach in a way. They were patients, but they did not have this close personal relationship with them. And in a few instances, some of the staff got attacked. There was some violence, and it made me reflect, because in the 2 years that I was there, often, very, very, very often, alone with all of them, I was never attacked or even aggressed verbally. None of that. None of that I have ever experienced. And yet there were few experiences of people on staff getting. So I suspect that how you approach the people that you are working with is very important. I wasn't trying to cure them. I was just available to them and trying to help them, but not looking at them as, you know, I am better than them. I'm sure you're not doing that yourself. I'm just sharing with you that it is possible that as you you look at these people as yourself, as like intimately yourself. There is a loving bond between all of us, and it's possible that if you tap into that it will have a deep effect on you in terms of feeling more calm and at peace, and onto also the people you work with, in them feeling less, having less tendency to violence.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathleen, nice to talk with you, and thank you for your question.
Thank you.
So if there is any other question. Ananda, you're right, I could invent a question. In order to prolong the satsang, consciousness plays all kinds of tricks.
I did have one thing to mention though. You're a little bit look in the dark. If you had a lamp or more light in front of you.
Oh, okay.
Because these cameras don't do well unless they have good light.
Yes.
You look kind of grainy and.
Okay, next time I will make sure to put a light. Thank you for mentioning that.
I'd like to see you as well as possible.
Okay. Yes, next time I will put.
So it's great to have these opportunities. I think it's. Tara was telling me when we were together, she was saying that you sometimes have to rush back from a job to do this satsang and things like that. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate what you put into it.
Well, it's a meeting in love. It's a sharing of love. Love is universal. We all share in that. And it's just very beautiful to be together this way.
Yes. It just occurs to me more and more that it's such a simple little switch to innate happiness from the concern of things, and
yes,
that's what I'm appreciating so much.
Yes, there is the mind activity, the me, concern, and it's like a me thought and another me thought and another. What's going to happen? This and him, that, and this, and then there is space between all of that. As you are contemplating presence, consciousness, which is space, which is infinite space, then that space that you're contemplating, which is the space that is contemplating, the space that is contemplating and the space that is being contemplated, then we'll start to, let's say, there'll be more and more of distance between this personal mind activity and the next one, with the peace between one personal mind event and the next personal mind event extending, and then it'll extend through and through, and it'll just go right through all mind events, and will sort of shine as the presence that never comes and goes, that is eternally shining. It's an eternal shining of presence, the eternal presence of the self. And the interest that previously maybe was still going back and forth between me and my life, and oh, I love presence and I love peace and happiness, that wavering, you say, the interest will become more and more to the self, to presence, to the beauty, to the love, to the happiness, to the freedom, to the joy, to the celebration. And it gives its own rewards, because when you're loving presence, you're loving peace, and peace you can savor it. It's so beautiful. So it's a feedback loop. It feeds back as a loop, feedback onto itself. The happiness that you taste is the happiness that motivates you to choose consciousness, to choose presence, rather than choosing what's going to happen to me. Will I get that? What? Why did they do this? Did they like me? Did she like me? And all these thoughts that have a reduced consciousness, like a person, like a reduced consciousness, that is quite an unhappy impression.
Right. That one guy on the interview panel who seemed to be kind of conservative, he's probably, for me to be muttering, oh, those conservatives. They make my life rough.
He was meant for you.
It was meant for me. Yeah.
He was meant for you. Yes, he was meant for you. Yes.
He'll probably become a best friend. We'll see. I liked your story. Oh, I was going to say I liked your story about the working with the schizophrenics and the halfway house.
Yeah.
I've been in situations like that.
Yes, it was really beautiful. I was so impressed by some of the artistry and creativity, and just not just. There was some connection that quite a few of them had with some other creative force, or creative light that came through them, and there were some beautiful artists among these people. They created such wonderful art. I was just dumbfounded. Well, I spent a lot of time with them, and I grew to really had some friendship. And I wasn't supposed to be their friends, but behind the scene, the top management didn't know.
Oh my gosh! I used to have I had some Alzheimer patients who I would come in and dance with. The first thing I would do is come, and Mary, she would dance with me around and then go to the office and start working.
Oh, beautiful.
Thanks again. so much. I've been thinking maybe I'll come out to Virginia this summer sometime.
Yeah, I think we are here. We are here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I'd let you know so that no spur of the moment trips would ruin things.
Okay,
Thanks so
beautiful,
much.
Ananda. Okay. Well, are there any questions from anybody? Okay. Well, thank you all for your lovely company, and see you again next week. Okay.
Thank you, Morgan.
Bye. Okay. Bye, Maru. Beautiful to see you. Okay, Kathleen, Doug, everybody.